Now it's time for Power of Prophecy, continuing the legacy of Tex Mars, exposing evil, and promoting Jesus Christ as Savior. Here's your host, Jerry Barrett.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of Power of Prophecy. I'm your host, Jerry Barrett. Honored to have you join me again this week. It is time for my favorite program of the month, Secrets. I know we just had one a couple weeks ago, partly because I had a number of programs I had to get pre-recorded because my wife and I went to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands on a little vacation. My niece had asked me to officiate her wedding, and it was a beautiful experience on the beach there in St. Thomas. But it's the 4th of July weekend, America's independence, and I don't know that we've ever been a nation more divided. It is crazy the amount of vitriol, hate that is being spewed from politicians, controlled media, everywhere. And to me, that is a sign that we need to turn back to God as a nation, because we're supposed to treat our neighbors as our brothers, our sisters. I don't know what happened to the golden rule. We don't teach it anymore, and we surely don't practice it. It seems that we have adopted the rich man's version of the golden rule, which is he who has the gold makes the rules. Not the one that we were taught way back in kindergarten and first grade, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But now it's all about my agenda, your agenda, and there's no room for any discourse. We don't want to have discussions. It's my way or the highway. We have become a self-centered, narcissistic society, and it is sad to see, because this is a great country. We have so many things going for us as a nation, but we have kicked Jesus to the curb in our zest, our zeal for living and being a part of this world. And it's sad to see. The day of reckoning is coming. And all of the people who deny Christ as our Savior will learn a heavy lesson. You know, I've told a number of people that the scariest phrase in the Bible to me is, "Depart from me, I knew you not." Wow. That phrase right there should scare the hell, literally and figuratively, out of everybody. But because we have sidestepped our biblical life and have taken part in this world, it doesn't matter. That is a sad reckoning to think of, how many lost souls we have in this country. And I say this because the month of June has been hijacked by the progressives. They have designated it Pride Month. Pride. Proud to be a sodomite, a homosexual, a lesbian, against all the tenets of what God teaches, because man knows better. The hubris of man, as Sandra would say. We know better. But do we really? Well, now we're into July. We're through with Pride for now, although it's still in our face. But this past June, Pride Month, it kind of took a back seat. It wasn't front and center as it normally has been. And because it wasn't beating us about the neck and shoulders, it was mostly peaceful. I'm going to steal a phrase from the rioters, but it was mostly peaceful. You could go to the store and not have rainbow merchandise everywhere. There wasn't constant bombardment with TV advertisements from pride-themed ads. But if you consider it, it was almost a rollback of decades of corporate wokeism. But it's not over. Oh, no, no. It doesn't matter how much success Christians and conservatives had in 2025 as far as the pride agenda, the homosexual LGBTQ agenda goes, because they will redouble their efforts. And there are a number of corporations, big money corporations, that will not acquiesce to Christians and conservatives when it comes to supporting the homos. And don't think that it's just a few splashy logos here and there. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Because these corporations are financing this dangerous enterprise in an effort to keep our children in bondage and their parents in the dark. The darling of this year's celebration was the Trevor Project. But it's not another one of those rah-rah LGBTQ crusaders. It is anything but controversial. And sponsors are lining up to finance this group to the tune of millions of dollars. The brands listed as year-round Trevor Project partners also rank among the highest on the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index. This HRC, Human Rights Campaign, is all about those who support the Mo's, the lesbos. And almost every company that submitted its information to this HRC got a perfect score, a 100, almost 100. These companies are completely on board with transgender insurance coverage and benefits, gender-neutral restrooms and dress codes, preferred pronoun usage, as well as LGBTQ hiring quotas. They want non-discrimination standards, sensitivity training, recruitment efforts, community outreach, lobbying on local, state, and federal issues. And the hardest of the hardcore supporters of the Trevor Project are Abercrombie, Lululemon, and Macy's. They donated $1 million. $500,000 came from AT&T and Deloitte. $250,000, get this, from Coca-Cola, Gen Digital, Gilead, Harry's Hot Topic Foundation, Jingle Jam, Sephora, MAC Cosmetics, Procter & Gamble, Rare Beauty, The Game Company. $100,000 donation to the Trevor Project came from Delta Airlines, Delta Dental, Dolce Vita, FedEx, Forever 21, Kate Spade, Kohl's, Maybelline, National Education Association, the NFL, Petco, Saks Fifth Avenue, United Airlines, Wells Fargo. The Trevor Project is a group that 3 years ago was exposed for grooming children online stealthily. The Trevor Project has its hooks in countless kindergarten through 12 classrooms across the country with its so-called resources for educators and school officials. Their website offers several educational guides for adults working with LGBTQ young people. This includes the Guide to Being an Ally to Transgender and Non-Binary Youth, How to Support Bisexual Youth, and Preventing Suicide. Trevor Project brags, we've increased our efforts in public education. Their resources include a model school policy booklet that it distributes to allied teachers, counselors, and volunteers across the country. They are still grooming our children. The Trevor Project urges educators to hide information about students' sexual orientation or gender identity from parents. These are the kind of anti-parent zealots that Macy's, Abercrombie, Petco, and others are donating your money that you spent in June. That's where it's going to the Trevor Project. Sometimes it's 10% of the purchase price. Other times it's the change you round up to. But it doesn't matter the amount. It is all fueling a dream of ideologues intent on destroying America's children. The biggest mistake we can make is believing we've won. We have not won a thing. A single dollar in the hands of these heathens is a weapon. So I talked about Al Sharpton and the Congressional Black Caucus wanting to target Target because they removed their DEI program and they shelved a bunch of their Pride garbage. They want everybody to boycott Target. I didn't see Target's name on the list of supporters for the Trevor Project. You may want to dig into the Trevor Project and do some research. See what you find. Maybe stop supporting those companies. There is a war for our children. It's being waged every day between loony left teachers, administrators, school districts, TikTok, all of the social media platforms that these kids are using. They are all grooming our children to be sodomites, lesbians, transgenders. Their minds are malleable, and they don't think it's a problem. And if a parent doesn't speak up about this, it gets to be a bigger problem. The Trevor Project. Look it up. We need to fight them. Okay, let's move on. This was an article written by Caitlin Richardson in the Daily Caller. It took as little as 5 minutes to order abortion pills online that many will say are unsafe without a doctor's adequately verifying eligibility requirements. These groups have launched this online service after the FDA approved mail-order abortions. They send an abortion pill under circumstances that are questionable, even by the relaxed standards of the FDA. In 2021, the FDA removed the requirement that providers distribute mifepristone in person and enabled prescribers to send the pill directly to women in the mail. 2021. The women don't have to speak to a physician or confirm a pregnancy. A woman can order these prescription abortion pills to her home in case she needs them in the future. So Caitlin filled out online forms and says that you'll have your request approved in minutes. A couple days after the payment, the pills arrive on your doorstep. The package might include a handwritten note saying you are brave, but no doctor will physically be there to warn you that mifepristone is not safer than Tylenol, as its advocates claim, or that the danger of complications is likely higher than the drug's label indicates. So, the people at the Daily Caller obtained 5 sets of this abortion drug for $660. 3 of the 5 organizations that sent pills to the Daily Caller were Aid Access, Optio Women's Health, and Abuzz Health. They use GenBioPro, one of the 2 FDA-approved manufacturers of mifepristone. The 4th was Cambridge Reproductive Health Consultants. They supply pills produced by Danco Laboratories, the other approved manufacturer. There was Women on Web. They sent pills in a plain manila envelope that did not indicate the drug's producer. So you don't know where it came from. The groups that supplied these abortion pills gave instructions for taking the pill long after the 10-week period the FDA approved for use. One of them said, quote, at 14 weeks you might see a fetus about the size of a lemon. That was Aid Access. Optio Women's Health warns that a fetus at 12 weeks can be about the size of a lime. Now, the forms vary in length, according to the Daily Caller, but they each took less than 5 minutes to fill out. They ask a few basic questions about pre-existing health conditions. They ask about allergies to misoprostol or mifepristone, along with any history of a cesarean section or ectopic pregnancy. Several providers ask about gender identity, sexual orientation, and preferred pronouns. It's not over. The battle is just starting. They said, in this article, Caitlin said the quickest delivery came in 3 days, the longest took 7. 7 days to get abortion pills. Then Caitlin provides some very chilling information. Nearly 83.5% of abortion-related ER visits that result from taking mifepristone were incorrectly coded as miscarriages between 2016 and 2021, according to a study of Medicaid data. The study found, quote, these miscoded abortion complications remain invisible to research scientists, resulting in a large underestimation of actual medical abortion complications, close quote. 1 in 10 women who take this abortion pill will experience a serious adverse event, according to an April study of insurance data by the Ethics and Public Policy Center. There have been some horrific instances because of these prescriptions through the internet. A teenage girl had to have emergency care because of complications after she was forced to take the drug by her mother, who obtained them online. There have been women who have died alone at home after attempting to undergo this process without medical supervision. Statistics published by the groups, as well as anecdotes, confirm women are ordering the pills for future use in record numbers. Some women began stocking up after Trump won the 2024 election. Aid Access received over 5,000 requests for pills in the 12 hours after Trump's victory was announced, according to The Guardian. 5,000 requests. Killing babies. Unbelievable. Doing it online. It's not even safe. You're supposed to have a doctor there. But we can order all kinds of drugs online now, it seems like. I know there's a website called Hims and there's a website called Hers. Without seeing a doctor, we're given drugs. They could be fatal. You could have an allergic reaction, not even know that you're allergic to this thing, without doctor's care. And the companies that are selling these things are making money hand over fist. They could care less. Goodness gracious. Well, it is the 4th of July weekend. Several cities in California have canceled their 4th of July celebrations because of ICE raids. And they're giving this as the reason for these last-minute cancellations. California has the largest illegal immigrant population in our country. The city of Cudahy, located southeast of Los Angeles, announced last week it was going to postpone an Independence Day celebration scheduled for July 3rd due to recent events and concerns regarding the safety of our residents. Wow. The Vice Mayor, Cynthia Gonzalez of Cudahy, has faced calls to resign, including from the Los Angeles Police Union, after she appeared to call on the city's street gangs to stop ICE's operation. She posted this, I think, on Instagram. Listen to this garbage.
Not for nothing, but I want to know where all the cholos are at in Los Angeles. 18th Street, Florencia. Where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Florencia. You guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up. We're out there like fighting our turf, protecting our people. And like, where you at? Bien calladitos. Todos los chulitos. I'm like, dude, they're running amok all up on your streets and in your city. And Pete, when the big gang guns come in, nothing but like quiet, and we're out here, the regular ones that have never been jumped in, out here calling things out trying to organize people, trying to do the thing. So don't be trying to claim no block, no nothing. If you're not showing up right now, trying to like help out and organize, I don't want to hear a peep out of you once they're gone, trying to claim that this is my block. This was not your block. You weren't even here helping out. So whoever's the leadership over there, just get your members in order.
Wow. Just wow. Now, Matt Himes is a resident, stated, quote, "This disdain for the average citizen is typical of California's Democrat leadership." But wait, there's more. Bell Gardens, just east of Cudahy, also canceled its 4th of July events, directly citing concerns about immigration enforcement. Since the notice of cancellation, the city has repeatedly used its social media accounts to promote immigration workshops. There was one pinned post that reads, quote, "Know your rights. Regardless of your immigration status, you have guaranteed constitutional rights," close quote. In this post, it instructs immigrants on how to respond to ICE agents who arrive at their home, advising them not to open the door for officers unless they have a warrant signed by a judge. Huntington Park, a city northwest of Cudahy, similarly postponed its Independence Day celebrations, though it did not provide a reason. Boyle Heights, located east of Los Angeles River, postponed its July 4th event, citing ICE activities. The Boyle Heights Beat reported that celebrations for Boyle Heights, El Sereno, Lincoln Heights, and Northeast Los Angeles will be postponed until sometime in August. Some of these cities are prioritizing shielding illegal immigrants over celebrating Independence Day. These actions by politicians betray the core values of America. Gloria Romero, a former Democratic majority leader in the California State Senate, told Fox News, quote, "They're basically canceling America. They're canceling patriotism. We are basically led by a far-left, ultra-woke bunch of fools," close quote. But wait, there's more. This was in the Daily Wire. Yes, I still read the Daily Wire, even though Phil Turney called them the Daily Liar. But Zach Jewell wrote this in Tucson, Arizona. Pinal County Sheriff Ross Teeple said that a group of protesters got between federal and local law enforcement officers and a home where over 120 pounds of fentanyl, 20 pounds of meth, 30 pounds of cocaine were seized. The suspect was an illegal immigrant and former cartel member. He was also taken into custody. Sheriff Teeple said the protesters disrupted the joint federal and local law enforcement operation, which was carried out with a search warrant. Sheriff Teeple said, quote, "These idiots came out and protested us getting 5 million fentanyl pills off the streets, 32 pounds of cocaine off the streets, 22 pounds of methamphetamines off the streets. They don't have individual thought, they have groupthink. Even when it was explained to them that this was a criminal case where we were taking a criminal drug smuggler, a known felon, off the street and keeping the community safe, they still sat there and protested because they don't have an independent thought." No, they don't. They have no clue. And Pramila Jayapal of Washington State. She's a representative, Democrat, from Washington State. That's a bastion of liberalism. I saw it firsthand last year in Seattle. She defended characterizing the ICE agents as a terrorist force. During a CNN appearance, she demanded that the White House apologize for the agency's enforcement operations. Huh? Last I looked, they were targeting criminals. Drug runners, human smugglers, rapists, child molesters, murderers, hardened criminals. That's who they're targeting right now. They're not rounding up Juan and Juanita because they're here illegally. They only get caught if they're collateral damage, so to speak. If they're hanging out with these felons, they get deported just like everybody else. But for a elected official to claim that these agents are a terrorist force is reprehensible. She was on CNN News Central with Breonna Keller, and Keller asked Jayapal about her comments. Jayapal said, quote, "What is deranged and cruel and outrageous is that literally we are seeing ICE agents. I assume they're ICE agents. They say they are. They don't have any identification. They're wearing masks. They're in plain clothes. They're coming and kidnapping and disappearing people on the streets of the United States. I never in a million years thought that this is something I would see here in America. I think it is the administration that has to apologize to U.S. citizens that have been rounded up, to legal permanent residents, to people with legal statuses across the country who are getting swept up, people who have been here for 20 years and committed no crimes, getting swept up by masked men who are kidnapping them and deporting them. That to me is so outrageous. It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. And it is absolutely terrorizing people, including small businesses and farmers." Close quote. Trump issued several executive orders as soon as he assumed office, addressing the illegal immigration and border security. He designated drug cartels from Mexico, the Trinidad gang, the MS-13 gang as foreign terrorist organizations. But that doesn't matter to Jayapal. She had a round table up in Spokane, Washington, and said, quote, "The round table I had was with people from the Growers League, farmers who are terrified, restaurant owners who can't have, who are seeing their sales go down because nobody wants to come out and eat. People are so afraid. It's never something I thought I would see in the United States of America. The White House owes an apology to the American people for what they're doing." Close quote. Now I'm going to rebut that. Number one, if you're a business and you're hiring an illegal alien and paying them pennies on the dollar compared to what you would pay an American, you're stealing from all the other taxpayers in this country. You're stealing. That is theft. I know a lot of people hire illegals and pay them cash, especially in the construction industry. I had a little time in that business. I was a framer. I did some roofing. And I know that if you can get an illegal to work for $8 an hour instead of paying an American $15, you're making $7 an hour profit off of what this guy is doing. I'm not saying they're not hard workers. I'm saying I'm comparing that to slave labor. Why is it that the Democrats are in support of slave labor? Is it because they've always been in support of slave labor? Was it the Democrats behind the creation of the KKK? Things to ponder. But the Democrats are so pro-illegal immigrant and anti-American citizen that it is sickening. I, for one, am fed up with the garbage that they spew. There are limits to the amount of legal immigration allowed, and it's set forth by Congress. And the reason we have limits is because we don't want the riffraff, the gangbangers, the drug runners to cross our borders and ruin our nation. We want the best of the best. We want the best of the best to come here and help America be even greater. Yes, we are a nation of immigrants, but we don't need riffraff. We have enough of our own because parents quit being parents. Schools have started indoctrinating kids. Been doing it for 60-some years. Quit defending the illegal immigrants. Stand up for America first. Goodness gracious, it's not so hard to understand. Well, that's going to take care of the first half. I want to thank you for tuning in and giving me some of your time. I have to take a brief pause, and when I come back, we're going to dive right back into Secrets. Secrets Volume 345. Stay with us, won't you? I'll be right back. Hello, friends. Jerry Barrett back with you again. Tex Mars wrote an amazing book entitled America Shattered, Unmasking the Plot to Destroy Our Families and Our Country. In this book, Tex exposes a sinister plot to undermine our country, Courageously revealing the names of those responsible, Tex Mars uncovers their grotesque plan to brand Christian parents as diseased, defective, and dangerous, and he unmasks their ultimate goal, the literal snatching away of our kids. This is nothing less than the shattering of America. Tex Mars has warned you. He warned us a long time ago. But there is something you can do to fight back and win. America Shattered will show you the way, but it's up to you. Are you up to the challenge? 138 pages, written by Tex Mars. $15, please add $6 shipping and handling. That'll make you total $21 to order your copy of this outstanding book. You can phone us toll-free in the United States and Canada at 1-800-234-9673. If you care to phone our regular line, that number is 512-263-9780. We're in the office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. We accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. You can order your copy of America Shattered by going to our secure shopping cart at powerofprophecy.com. There's an ad for America Shattered right there on the main page. Click on it, put in your name, your address, your charge card, pick your method of shipment, hit submit, we'll get it and get it coming to you. Now, if you want to send in a check, money order, or cash, please make your check or money order payable to Power of Prophecy, and you can mail it to us here at 4819 R.O. Drive, Suite 102, Spicewood, Texas, and our zip code is 78669. Okay, and now let's return to our regular program. There was an ice storm that hit Louisiana. Yes, they detained 80 undocumented, that's what the article says from Conservative Free Press, 80 undocumented workers, uncovered potential document fraud, money laundering, human trafficking operations. This has been going on for years under the radar. It was a coordinated operation at Delta Downs Racetrack in Vinton, Louisiana. It targeted unauthorized workers and is investigating additional criminal activities. Horse racing industry representatives criticized the operation for removing essential workers without warning. The hubris. They know these people are illegally here in this country. 80 of them. Human trafficking. Can you say it? And they're upset. One of the detainees is Enrique Gonzalez Moreno. He has a lengthy criminal record of illegal entry and multiple criminal convictions. He's not the best of the best. We need to get him out of here. But there are people in the horse racing industry that are beside themselves that this would happen. They're outraged that they would suddenly remove 80 workers who they claim are essential. Boyd Gaming Corporation, that owns Delta Downs, stated they comply with federal labor laws and are cooperating with law enforcement. But representatives of the National Horsemen's Benevolent and Protective Association criticized this raid because of its disruptive impact on racetrack operations. Peter Eckebert said, quote, "To come in and take that many workers away and leave the horse racing operation stranded and without workers is unacceptable." Peter, your attitude is unacceptable. You had 80 illegal aliens working there. Since Trump took office, there has been a shift toward prioritizing job opportunities for American citizens and legal immigrants. Since Trump took office, all net job growth has gone to native-born Americans. This has reversed a trend that was extremely troubling, where all job growth under Biden's regime benefited illegal immigrants and those who had been paroled or released at the border. Critics of the enforcement argue that the economy relies on immigrant labor. Shame on you. Shame on you for relying on slave labor. That's basically what you're doing. But having these industries populated with illegal aliens is a disincentive for Americans to try to seek employment in these sectors. And it also drives down wages for everybody. Goodness, what is so hard to understand about that? And if you look at the numbers, I saw on CNN on a Twitter post, Harry Enton was on CNN showing that 56% of Americans in a poll, an ABC News poll, said that they want to deport all illegal immigrants. Not just some, all. 56% of Americans polled. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, you slave labor runners. Goodness gracious. Okay, we'll move on. This was in the Gateway Pundit. I go to the gatewaypundit.com a lot. You know, New York had their mayoral primaries recently, and there was a Muslim socialist communist that took the Democratic Party nomination. And he's created a stir. New York Police Department officers have claimed there will be a mass exodus of cops in New York if Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor of New York City. Now, Mamdani claims he will not defund the police or shrink their workforce, but a zebra doesn't change stripes. And during the George Floyd protests in 2020, Mamdani advocated for defunding the NYPD. June 8, 2020, he wrote, quote, "No, we want to defund the police." On June 28, 2020, he wrote, quote, "We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD." Close quote. Now, Scott Monroe is the president of the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association, and he was quoted in the New York Post saying, quote, "If you put a guy like him in there, our people are going to get hurt, and nobody's going to want the job. It's going to put recruitment back 5 more steps," close quote. So the leadership in the NYPD are bracing for this mass exodus unless the current mayor, Eric Adams, can pull off the upset. Adams is running as an independent. He has left the Democrat Party, and he faces an uphill climb. I think the other Republican nominee is Curtis Sliwa, who started, Guardian movement, where they self-police, they report, they're kind of like community watchers. But right now it looks like the communist Muslim is going to take over unless things change. New York City is going to have a commie Muslim mayor. Oh my. Continuing, this was also in the Gateway Pundit. Mamdani plans to fund his radical transformation in New York City by hiking property taxes for richer and whiter neighborhoods. There was a policy memo issued entitled "Stop the Squeeze on NYC Homeowners." This memo promises to address a deeply inequitable system using the full power of the mayor's office to both address the system directly and working with legislators at the state level to win necessary reforms by shifting the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and wider neighborhoods. The Republican National Committee's research got on Twitter and said, quote, "Zohran Mamdani, Democrat socialist candidate for New York mayor, wants to shift taxes to wider neighborhoods. This is the face of the Democrat Party." Close quote. Even Democrats are nervous about how this is going to play with the public. Mamdani is also pushing a plan to spend $65 million in taxpayer money on gender-affirming care for minors. A commie Muslim mayor. It could happen. Now, I will say this. The exodus from New York was bad enough when Hochul got elected governor, when Cuomo was governor, when de Blasio was mayor of New York City. Florida had an intense migration of people from New York City and also from New York State that came down to Florida to get away from the tax burden that they were under. If New York City puts this communist in charge, he also wants to open up grocery stores paid for by the government. If you thought your taxes were high already in New York City, just wait. Oh my goodness. Well, we continue in the realm of politics. Thomas Massie is not very popular with President Trump. He's also not popular with AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Number one, Massie doesn't have a handler from AIPAC. That's target number one. Number two, he defied Trump and his big, beautiful bill because it didn't cut the deficit. It increases the deficit. Massie is trying to be fiscally responsible. That's what all politicians in Congress should be. They should be worried about filling every bill with pork for their community. Balance the budget. John Q. Public has to balance his budget. We can't overspend. We can't kite checks like the government does. And we definitely can't keep racking up debt. We do bad enough with the credit card debt that many people have. But the government, the federal government, is $1 trillion in debt. Trillions of dollars in debt. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars each month just paying off the interest. But Massie is now facing pushback from Trump and AIPAC, and they're looking to unelect him in the midterm elections in 2026. AIPAC is actively recruiting candidates to run against Massie. Mr. Massie said, quote, "I'm aware that foreign lobbyists have conducted a push poll and are trying to recruit another candidate to run against me due to my opposition to foreign aid and foreign wars. Their previous efforts have failed completely, and I expect this race to be no different," close quote. Now, Massie is also very vocal in his opposition to America's involvement in any Israeli war, especially the one in Iran. But Trump wrote on Truth Social saying he will personally campaign against Massie. Massie appeared on a podcast recently, and he shared his views on AIPAC's political influence, and he stated, quote, "I think they're the best lobbying group in Washington, D.C., and the reason they can do it is you can have dual citizens, people who are American and Israeli, who are allowed to give money into American politics because they're American. By virtue of that, you are allowed to participate. But if you are a foreign national, you're not allowed to," close quote. So, Massie, Thomas Massie, needs our support. We need a America First voice, not an Israel First voice in Congress. Continuing in politics, this was in Alpha News. There is a Kenyan national who's been convicted of sexually assaulting a woman in Minnesota, but he wasn't deported after his prison sentence. Instead, he got promoted. Yes, he's the director at the Minnesota Department of Education. He audits taxpayer spending and oversees internal accountability. Yes. His name is Wilson Tindy. Court records show Tindy was convicted in 2016 of fourth-degree criminal sexual assault. He pleaded guilty in exchange for prosecutors dropping a first-degree burglary charge. Sentenced to 2 years in prison, ordered to register as a predatory offender. Despite his felony conviction, Tindy serves as a director of internal audit and advisory service at the Minnesota Department of Education. A former prosecutor with direct knowledge of this case said they were disturbed to learn he now holds a leadership role in state government. The attorney said that in addition to the 2016 conviction, Tindy was also accused of a similar crime in 2012. The case was never charged. Prosecutors filed a Spriegel notice, a legal move to introduce evidence of prior misconduct, citing the 2012 allegation as evidence of a disturbing pattern. Tindy was in ICE custody in August 2016. The government sought to deport him to Kenya. In 2016, an immigration judge ordered his removal based on the felony sex crime conviction. This decision was later upheld by the Board of Immigration Appeals, but it was stayed by an appeals court. Tindy filed a federal habeas corpus petition arguing his detention had become unconstitutional because it dragged on too long without actual deportation, and a federal judge agreed. Goodness. Recently, Tindy was arrested for driving while intoxicated. But Governor Walz would rather have him at the Minnesota Department of Education. Why not? A criminal, illegal alien, a felon, a sex offender in the state government in Minnesota. There was a tragic story in Texas. There was a track meet, and it was a hot day. It usually is here in Texas. So there was a pop-up tent set up for one of the schools. A rival school at this track meet, one of their athletes went underneath this pop-up tent and sat down. It wasn't made for them. He was asked to leave. His response, he allegedly murdered a 17-year-old student. The murderer's name, the alleged murderer's name, is Karmelo Anthony. And I say alleged because he is innocent until proven guilty. But he's been indicted, Karmelo Anthony has, for first-degree murder. He has asked for a public defender, citing financial hardship. Now, what makes this so strange is his family set up a Give, Send, Go fund. It raised nearly $600,000. The family has had to raise the goal twice. Originally, it was set for $350,000. This was to hire an attorney and defend Karmelo Anthony against these charges. Well, I blew past that, so they increased it to $600,000. Well, it's at $595,000 now, so the family has bumped it up to $1.4 million. This is a Give, Send, Go fundraiser for this alleged murderer. $600,000, almost $600,000. Put that on your tongue. $600,000 has been donated to this kid, this alleged murderer, needing public defender. The family has purchased a new Cadillac. They moved into a $900,000 home. But the family claims the funds support legal defense, safe relocation due to threats, basic living costs, transportation, trauma counseling, and security measures. Anybody that donated to that fund should have their head examined. And if you continue to support that fund, you really have a problem. They bought a brand new Cadillac and a $900,000 home. Why did the kid have a knife in his possession at a track meet for a school, high school, in the first place? Is he a thug? Is he a punk? Why would you carry a knife to a track meet? When I ran track, I didn't carry anything but my warm-ups, pants and sweatshirt, and my shoes. That's it. I didn't carry a knife. Goodness gracious. Oh, the state of this country. Well, I want to get to this. Back in 2022, the Florida Surgeon General, and I admire this guy, his name is Dr. Joseph Ladapo. He was rebuked by the health authorities because he suggested the benefit of the COVID-19 jab was outweighed by the risk of heart conditions, myocarditis in particular. The then director of the FDA, Dr. Peter Marks, said, quote, "Our goal is not to get into like a fight or a tiff because public health isn't served well by this. Our goal is to help get to an acceptance that there are overall benefits of these vaccines despite the fact that, yes, it is true that there could be some side effects," close quote. Ladapo was right. Now the FDA has since acknowledged there is a greater risk of post-vaccination myocarditis than the so-called experts were first publicly willing to admit to. Now, Pfizer and Moderna have to have new safety information in the adverse reaction section of the inserts in this jab. Dr. Vinay Prasad, director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, provided a refresher about the efforts of the previous administration to downplay the risk of myocarditis. Dr. Prasad is referring to congressional testimony given by Senator Ron Johnson in May that noted the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the FDA officials were aware early in 2021 of a safety signal for the heart condition on the basis of Pentagon and Israeli data. A day after, health officials at the agencies acknowledged a safety signal, the CDC discussed whether to issue a heart alert network message on myocarditis. The Biden White House distributed talking points to top U.S. health officials, de-emphasizing the risk. Then acting FDA Commissioner Janet Woodcock told then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky that the, quote, FDA does not concur with the issuance of the myocarditis hand as written, close quote. Both agencies nixed the alert. Unbelievable. It was hidden and covered up and downplayed by the Biden administration. They mandated this jab. Military people had to give up their careers, take a discharge, because they refused the jab. This is in hotair.com from David Strom. He says, from the outset, all evidence suggests that COVID-19 was deadly to the old and the infirm. We heard comorbidities more than we had ever heard in our lifetime during this scamdemic. But this was a bad flu for everybody else. Only a small fraction of the population was vulnerable. They rushed out this vaccine. It made sense to give it, even without long-term testing, to those with a high risk of death. But that's not what happened. The risks were exaggerated. The protection measures were mostly useless. When the jab, not standard vaccine, but a novel mRNA vaccine that was untested, was used, the government tried to force everybody to take it. The damage done has been immense, and there's been no reckoning to date. Any sane person knows that the effect on children has been perhaps the most damaging. There is a new Czech study that indicates it isn't only the children who were traumatized and robbed of education during the scamdemic who suffer. It includes the children who will never be born because health officials claim to know that the vaccines were safe and effective for women of childbearing age. It was all a lie and they knew it. There was absolutely zero data on the effects of the mRNA jabs on fertility or fetuses. In a study covering 1.3 million women of childbearing age, published in the International Journal of Risk and Safety in Medicine, a simple analysis was done comparing the rate of conception between women who were jabbed and those who were not. There is a dramatic difference in the results. Early on in the vaccination program, women experienced serious changes in their menstrual cycles. Subsequent studies showed that other changes to fertility were likely. The menstrual changes were a red flag that the public health officials ignored, reassuring everyone they were of no concern. Their commitment wasn't to the health of women, but to the viability of their vaccine program. Their view of informed consent was simple. If the people are informed, they might not consent, so don't inform them, just lie. How many women have been robbed of their fertility? He says it's impossible to say. What we do know is that each and every one of them was lied to in a manner we define as crime against humanity. This study should be front page news. It should be talked about 24/7, 365. We need to learn that the people who run our lives are not experts, but are budding tyrants, so drunk with power they experimented on every person in the world without worrying about the damage they could do. There won't be much discussion about this check paper. Guaranteed. It needs to be front and center, but it's not. Well, there was a big hubbub about Trump's tariffs. Even did a program on it. If you're looking for truth in news, you're not going to find it very often in controlled media. Every now and then something slips by the controllers. This happened on the business news channel CNBC. It was posted on Twitter or X on June 30th. Sarah Eisen is co-anchor of the network Squawk on the Street and Money Movers. She expressed astonishment at the amount of revenue thus far collected by the U.S. government as a result of Trump's tariffs. I want to play this for you. Her observation is telling. I mean, she can't even hide the truth.
Look how much we've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers. And they have gone up a lot. June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue. So far, guys, $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot, especially we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation.
Eisen noted that the predictions of so-called experts who warned of higher prices from tariffs hasn't materialized. Go figure. You know, the government used to be funded by nothing but tariffs. If we went back to that and got rid of the income tax system, well, that's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. They're not going to give up control. All that money, all that power, all that control, politicians in D.C. would have to take a pay cut. They keep pushing for more. Well, I want to finish with this. Scott Jennings cracks me up. I don't watch CNN, but I catch clips here and there, and Scott Jennings is a gem. He was on one of their talking show programs, and there was a contributor by the name of Kerry Champion who cited Rwanda's foreign minister saying it remained uncertain whether good faith negotiations could take place with the Democratic Republic of Congo. But obviously she didn't watch the news because there was an announcement in the Oval Office. Listen to Scott Jennings educate Miss Kerry Champion.
Jobs not done. A foreign minister from Rwanda told CNN, he said he's committed to supporting this ongoing negotiation, but warned that ending the conflict will depend on political will and the good faith. And he doesn't know if that is true, referring to the DRC's government. It's not done. It's not done.
You didn't watch the news yesterday. They literally announced it in the Oval Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years.
Let me ask you a question.
Literally in the Oval Office.
Can I say something?
Friday afternoon.
You said something earlier. You said, and you kind of agree with Pete, when he says there's something about the media where they feel like they want to disprove Donald Trump. Is that what you said? Something to that effect?
Yeah, it happens every day.
And you think that's what they want to do, right? You think the media is going in to say he's lying and he's not telling the truth. You believe that?
That is the standing disposition.
Do you believe that he tells the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Every time?
You think
all presidents
you think the president tells the truth? This current president tells the truth often.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I also think that, to our point that we haven't established, he does announce things before it's too soon.
They literally had the countries in there.
The program isn't.
I feel like you should watch the news before you come out here.
I feel like you should stop trying to defend him just to defend him.
I feel like you should watch the news.
I think you should stop.
I feel like you should watch the news. Oh my. And they want us to trust them. Come on. Seriously? I had to close with that. That is too funny. Scott Jennings is a hoot, and he constantly shows the receipts to these naysayers, and they refuse to believe him. Well, that's going to take care of this week's program. I want to thank you for tuning in and giving me an hour of your time. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, I pray you will tune in again next week at this same time. Tune in and discover the power of prophecy.